but this is from the book that I've got. Is that where I'm going to be here? Linked in there. The description, and if you do subscribe to the website, you can get a discount back on that. And also, I think the first 10 ones, I think that's already happened. I'll have to check, but you get a free copy of the ebook there. But this is the first half of it is all of the lyrics and all the references that would relate to this concept of the star seeds, the matrix, and all of that. But then it's also got how those lyrics relate to these same elements in films. And that's, the prologue here kind of develops that concept. This is not a teaching on that, but that's there if you want to, if you're new to this or want to understand what she's actually referencing here. But we're just going to jump right in, because I know with the last video I did a ton of preamble here, but this is way more fleshed out, and I've got just so much more put together here and finally completed. So the central matrix concept here is, we start off with like maybe Down Bad as our sort of premise song here, but then there's each song that kind of takes us through the arc of these different trajectories that are still a lot of our, I would say, the story of many chosen ones, or I don't use the Starseed term as much or identify with any of that, but it's definitely comes with the territory. They're very similar experiences, and there's an element of Revelation 17:18, the harlot, that's this sort of secret religious structure that's like systematic oppression, that kind of thing, universalism, and then I think there's some false matrix there as well, unfortunately. But that's where your discernment kind of comes in. But there's so many films. But Eternal Sunshine's a big one. All Charlie Kaufman stuff is pretty relevant here. Inception, of course. But people are having spiritual awakenings, and then wondering, am I mad or bad or wise, or this is the film. People are, the questioning of reality thing, and the whole concept of just feeling that there's different timelines, that there's something that you're supposed to be with, but something is, a glitch in the matrix has caused, you do not end up with that person, or these different simulations are rerunning. It's different ways of interpreting deja vu, or the phenomenon of the way your brain is processing memories, or there's all kinds of scientific ways to explain these kind of things. But it's for decades, people have knit some of these same concepts to just the awakening process, but like never before. But I think in part due to Twitter, it's become a little bit more normalized. They don't just, people aren't afraid to talk about it anymore, or the obsessive. Used to be just sort of like, ostracized. And it's not like that anymore, though. I wouldn't advise getting obsessed with it or anything, or let it become your entire worldview. But let's get into it here. So this is Fortnite is a great intro here. It's supposed to be sent away. It's how I used to do, like I was just talking about. The video for Fortnite, there's, if you haven't seen Destiny Swaps, or search that on TikTok or anything, understood that, it's you could argue that it's even all through the Bible of people just taking, what you say, don't anybody come from my job, right? That's whether that's Lucifer taking Adam's spot, or then Christ taking Adam's, or there's so all through that, Jacob and Esau. There's all these different elements. Delilah and Samson. There's the usurpation, whatever that word is, power that can be that a version of that there, and the divine feminine, the divine masculine archetypes that are sort of kept apart by these karmic forces. So you think like the Montagues, the Capulets, like a love story, right? This highlights a bit more strategic element to that a lot of within the New Age circles, the tarot culture is really that's very germane to that, which they would talk about being stuck in a karmic cycle, the endless Februaries, the Groundhog Days kind of thing. But also, with psychic foreknowledge, and especially nowadays with like the Jezebels that whatever they go after people's spiritual inheritance, or they just they get rid of people, and then that's the gold digger thing, and they steal people's soulmates and things like that, or sabotage them. That kind of it's very karmic. It's like this life was a game, and that's the role they signed up to play. But there's like a force that's behind this too. That's we had Adam and Eve and the Lord, and the devil gets in the middle of it. It's kind of how it goes. And then it doesn't. When you awaken, you break out of the matrix, and you seize your destiny, take your power back. Maybe use some of the decrees or stuff that is online. It'll be out on our site there. And sees your destiny. Sees the day. But she sees her neighbor, watering flowers and all of that, and she knows that it's like that person has taken her soulmate, and that's the husband there. And it's elements of Sylvia Plath is referenced through a lot of this, identifying with that particular story. Florida it keeps coming up here, and I have thoughts on that. I'm not yet fully, I don't fully have that. But in this context, if you think that there's an element of it's kind of giving. It could be witness protection. There's no one asks any questions there. That kind of thing, like where you came from, or how you got there, or what you did to end up there. There's another thing. Maybe not being, maybe on the run. There's another way to think of it too. A good place to hide out, something like that. But there's activations related to handlers, and like it's almost like because some of the stuff too gets into like the starseed concept of a lot of these that were people that were maybe meant to write for one kingdom, and then they're brought into this other alternate destiny or alternate timeline or parallel universe, or that was that. There's a lot of channeling in the early Chili Pepper albums on just parallel universe and some of that stuff. Californication is a big one, and the way that there are handlers in the media industry. Chaperone's doing a good job of calling some of this out. And if you really look, a lot of it's here too, where feeling as if that like they knew that she was a star, or she was a star earlier on, or these people they think they can tell this just by the people's birth dates and stuff like that. I'm not saying I believe it. I'm saying those witches really do, and whatever cultic forces that try to just keep them in that productivity generation, and then on their keep them endorsing their agendas. It gets kind of foil hat here quickly here, but there's that's just more and more we're seeing some of the stuff that was foil hat was because it's kind of disruptive. If to really think that way and not be able to handle it, but the information age is all. People are breaking this stuff down, but there is a lot of deception. People are just, they get stuck in the echo chamber. So definitely a time for discernment. But there's a lot of the same directors, the same actors that kind of come up on these same topics, which is kind of interesting, and she's referencing Groundhog's Day here, which is the same director as Dead Poet Society, which is also another element here. Again, Seize the Day is a big part of that. Seizing your destiny is really part of that, awakening from the programming. Because that's what disrupts the matrix, right? Is the unpredictability, and that you go over here and have to build this whole new world around you. Truman Show, she has actually mirrored elements of the Truman Show, like note for note, on using scenes of the Eras tour. You can Google that, see what you find. But there, a lot of these same references, a lot of these, Jim Carrey movies, Mike Myers, stuff like that. There's it's really interesting how they keep kind of coming up here. But that's the second half of the book, is we'll go through those references. I need to keep going here. Okay, so you'll see Lucy come up a lot. There's a lot of Twin Peaks references and concepts in the whole Chosen One thing. I think that Lynch was either consciously or unconsciously channeling a lot of these elements here. But these MK Ultra items that people that were targeted, or the various programming, or there was different grants that were given to there's a reason that so much of the finances were allocated to like one particular generation. It's not us, between some of the stuff. If you really look at it, that's or some told, who how do you prove that, right? But it kind of these things, you put the pieces together. It's a narrative. It's interesting, and it's definitely worth exploring. I'm just like, once you start to like have a lens for it, you kind of see it everywhere. It's a paradigm shift here. And some of these songs too, are just about what they're about, and then there's these themes and these secondary elements are there, and some of them are very overt. And so there's the obvious, kind of dealing with the smear campaign and the performance art and the narratives. And so she's kind of like, who's going to troll you like I do? She's talking about how she's in charge of her narrative here, and she's incorporating whatever and what she wants to. And so she's giving lyrics. It's really such a flex because you can see Maddie Healy, who's a paradigm of the shapeshifter or the time jumper or whatever, that comes in, love bombs, adopts in the energy, harvests off of her energy. Not intentionally, or it's and again, this is likely Dali-esque. It's all part of one thing she's like presenting, which is there's enough. She said that in 2014 in this English interview. Actually, she's like, why would I date anybody and make it like known and have put them to that level of scrutiny or anything like that? Intention, I take her at that, a little bit. But there, there's some real pain, and you can see that there's whether that's him or there's someone else. It's not as much of speculating of the who of that as much as identifying the archetype and what being brought through the story that she's selling this, and then finding places to relate it, because the chosen one, those experiences, you can see that they systematically brought through so much, trauma, the perpetual Lucy with the football kind of thing, and Lucifer, that comes up through like the whole sort of thing that is this kind of like Job type situation. But Christ also went through these sort of wilderness temptation times before the ascension, and a mindset shift too, of realizing that we're actually kind of programming our own matrix by what we feed ourselves, and the only thing to fear is fear in and of itself there. But getting back to the Josie Hotel, she's written it. You can think it's Phoebe at parts, you can think it's Maddie at parts. She's giving it, threading the needle on a reference that can be taken so many different ways, which is really cool, which gives to this sort of like trope element or whatever too. But it's not that it's the reality of it, it's the thing of just like delusion and gaslighting is such a theme between all of this, and it's almost like a reversal on the non-Gaylors. It's like making it so apparently one way that you'd have to be in delusion not to see it, which is what they had done to all the Gaylors. And so that's the flip of up into the final Florida type thing there too. And so I think that title track kind of deals with that too. But getting into the narcissistic, there's a lot of videos that have been done on narcissist versus empath, narcissist versus chosen one, who are typically very empathic, and the way that they need the emotional reactions and to feed off that energy, and the systematic way is as if they have a program, or like Dr. Sam Mencken writes about how like it can feel like they're all operating with the same strategies, and whether that's some sort of like choreographed like principality or demonic thing behind that or whatever, or just like actual strategic, whatever, handlers and all that kind of stuff. It's the target of individual phenomenon is actually really more like that than it is like seeing the same white man follow you or whatever paranoid conspiracy thing that is kind of gets hijacked that term somehow. But Menken's actually come around on the reality of like the little more organized narcissistic oppression. But so praying for everybody to get liberated from that and awaken to that. But the person who's been through the narcissistic conditioning and retained themselves and healed from that, it's really a powerful thing. But because there is so much self-delusion, pull the string and I'll tell you that he runs because he loves me. Put me back on the shelf. Just sitting there waiting by the window for him to return again, waiting for the down bad, the aliens to come and adopt her again, because that love bombing, all those chemicals, and the way that they condition you with that, the cortisol from the discard and the valuing, and then taking them back again, and they're paying attention to them again, and they're alive, and the dopamine is back, and so they're getting addicted to that chemical thing, to where a normal person, right, doesn't really do that. But then also the boredom of the karmic handler, the Joe of it all, is that then you're fresh out the slammer, and ready to go back and get adopted again, that kind of thing. So, and then taking all the blame of that, my anti-hero, once I fix me, he's gonna miss me, as if he's broken her, and she's blaming herself, right? It's like, it's brilliant picture here of what, because the trauma mind control or whatever, that's where, through the process, those people with the dark psychology, whether that's like a learned thing, an inherited thing, or whatever it is, without learning to repair your inner child as they try to break, and and get into that self-love, and really it takes a higher power, it takes the Lord, I think, a lot of times to really break out of that, and then to spot the red flag and not get caught up again. But she flat out says, tell me I was the chosen one, right? And so in this context, it's she hits all different points of view on this: the chosen one, the handler, the narcissistic oppressor, the affiance, and she's really and this one, it's kind of inverting the term, and as if she's been selected, greater cosmic purpose, but then sent back to the earth without explanation, and as if it was an experiment, and so the alien abduction narrative, a metaphor for the love bombing experience, finally feeling alive and knit to a higher purpose, right? And that can be some of the psyop element of some of the online readers that are, sometimes you can sort of tell the ones that are the astroturf, or the funded ones. So there's I think there is the reality of those that were actually speaking by the Spirit of the Lord, for these who are, they're targeted because they have such a call on them, right? Those are a part of the voice in the wilderness, the collective of John the Baptist preparing the way for the second return, for the second coming. But it kind of gets, the counterfeit of that is the mark of the beast, false antichrist, whether they're getting people into that stream instead. But the twin soul element, the twin flame, like I lost my twin here, it's the cosmic counterpart, the other half of it, fragmented souls. So it's kind of funny how that works, because it can be perhaps that it happened. It can feel like a twin flame, or that can be a seed that the narcissist planted, because they are able to use trauma in dark psychology to sort of take parts of your soul back. You can just decree that by power of the Lord, or if you don't believe, you can say power of the Most High. You can take sovereignty over your body and claim those pieces back. But a lot of times that you're attracted to them because you're drawn to a piece of yourself that you've stolen. You recognize that's me. Your higher self's trying to tell you that, and so that's the down bad element. She's in the gym again, broken part. She's blaming that self blame, not being enough, all of those things. It's she's not yet broken out of the matrix here. She's very much been pushed into a deeper version of this one. She's switching from the parental one to the friend one. You realize all the karmic friends are really trying to keep you from the person you're supposed to be with. That's what they all never trust your girlfriends, never trust your guy friends, because they're all jealous. They do not want. It's rare unless you have an empathic, a good soul family, and people are actually empathic, and you'll know if you do. Typically, it's from every all the research I've done, every story that I've heard, it just kind of seems like they want you with that karmic handler. But yeah, the Starseed is a twin soul archetype there. It's like, you know, if there really is that kind of thing where you touch someone who is a reflection back to yourself. If they haven't ascended yet, a lot of times there's so much betrayal that it can be catastrophic, because it's it's a lot. Every time there's been so much written about the twin flame that is a callous twin flame. It's, it's not a soulmate. It's a different thing, and they can just, everything that they interact with you reveals shadow work that needs to be done, and so it can be intense on both sides. Shadow work. So for a moment, a new cosmic love, though, Jamiroquai there, virtual insanity. Someone just gets kind of cultic, whatever, download, waking and blood, or just some of the stuff gets, there's like 3 like real graphic lines in here and on the album. Super, wow. But hostile Tabo, she loving the hostile takeovers is that Stockholm syndrome and this like emotional rush and it's the safe place is to be fascinated in God, right? A satanic energy harvest is to get you fascinated by anything else, like especially something that they can control you with, the YouTube, the concerts, all that stuff that fuels the witch stuff, whatever. So they say I'm detached from belief of all this stuff. So building a fort in some planet here, that's just the fort keeps coming back in from that safe space, that imaginary world, and that could be just the secret gardens of our minds kind of thing. It's interesting. So long, London, going saying goodbye to the karmic handler, the person, the one that kills you with disinterest and their own self-involvement, and of carrying the weight of the other person, doing all they love bomb you, and then they force you to do all of the emotional labor, and they love the validation of like your pursuit of them, and so they just they'll be impressed, but like act like they're not, or just so into their own trip that they just, you aren't felt, seen, heard. They disagree with everything you say. They're always playing devil advocate. It's they're never trying to build you up. They're trying to build other people up around you to make you jealous, so that you try harder and do it so they can control you. It's emotionally exhausting. The best for them is if they can get you into fear, or that's another way they can control you. It goes on like, I am trying to break your heart kind of thing, or hell is a chrome. It's a good one too. It's just like, but then then you try to do what's right, and you sever, and then it's the guilt, the blame, and the shame. Fortunately, not you're whatever the problem is, it's you. Even though they've orchestrated it and given you 2 bad options or 3 bad options to, when these people are just flat out paid to just break your brain, like you just have to detach and know it personally, and it's at a certain point you just don't take the bait, don't eat the apple, I guess. So it's she stopped CPR. After all, it's no use. The termination of life support protocols. This isn't the end, the maintenance of a program relationship. Blame and subject for the collapse of a programming that they didn't create. They're not responsible for. I don't know. What's that? Good Will Hunting. It's not your fault. Died on the altar waiting for proof. Right where you left her, that kind of thing. The future faking, timeline dangling, offering this possibility, this future, and getting you to do the thing or orchestrating things through there, and then, oh yeah, just kidding, not interested, or whatever it is. If one thing, spiritual death or mental death, or whatever they're trying to achieve there, it's white knuckle dying grip is like. It is a painful process to release the program detachments, but that's where you just kind of have to go through a loving detachment until someone is really improving themselves. Is not as just like compliable or whatever, but is like truly empathetic, and when they're like caught, they don't just talk their way out of it or whatever, but you can you learn to have the discernment to spot genuine remorse and when you're just being manipulated. All of those little things. Not that you have to let them know you know, but just that, yeah, you cultivate that. That's like such you know, 101 here. Little Mermaid song here, but that I love. You know, I learned these people only raise you just to cage you. If that's not an MK Ultra chosen one concept there, you know, and that cage is, you know, what's he saying? You know, that's me trying. I don't know that all my cages were mental or whatever. And I don't know, half the Matrix, you know, is just binding, jar spell magic or whatever it is. You know, it's but you can just pray. I mean, break all that stuff out once you start to awaken it and make the decrees like we got in our other books. But or in the back of this one here if you get it. But you know, there's a cage chosen one, because that you would be a disruptor. You would disrupt the Matrix if they weren't on top of it. You know, the Sarah's and Hannah. Those are biblical references related to miraculous pregnancies, you know, starseed bursts, that kind of thing. And again, Ariel actually, you know, makes it a deal to get out of the cage, if you notice that. Another implied parallel there too. And then talking about, I'm having the baby. No, I'm not. But you see your faces, you know, and that can deal with the cultic, like intentional miscarry or whatever that is. But the, you know, elders down at the city hall and all that involved there. But she's, you know, this is that vigilance. It's like there has to be something in you that says, like, I'm going to do what it takes to do. I'm going to save the money and, you know, sell the stuff and just do what it needs to do so that I can, you know, be on my highest timeline and choose myself and live the, you know, life within the matrix that I design, you know, and to do it with care and intentionality, right? So there's a little aside here. We're kind of just break down. There's a parallel here. We're getting to fresh out the slammer, where she's actually out now. You know, you can feel the resolution, that I'm going to get out of here kind of thing, and it resolves here in this. And of course, she goes right back to the alien, and only to find out that, like, this was yet another matrix, right? Which is just like, it's wild how the you know, time jumpers keep trying to be a couple steps ahead of you. Yeah, you really do have to design your own life, your own world here. But realizing you have the power to do it, and there's nothing to fear except for, you know, that's what Jesus did. He realized that he controlled the matrix and he walked on the water. So, because he needed to, not just to show off. The devil tried to get him to do it as a show, and that was bad. So, handcuffed to the spell I was under, again, talking about magical binding, that, you know, we talk about a break in the other book. Now pretty big, I'm running back home to you, fresh out the slammer. You know, she did her time. She's out of Shawshank, right? You know, how bad this to myself gets. That we get into some of the handler stuff later, but you will have to build the book to get to I think a lot of the rest of these. But Florida, so maybe where she escapes to. Perhaps a barricade in the bottle and a bathroom with a bottle of wine. I mean, Florence crushed this stuff. But it's really important here, actually. Massive key here. Best to lay rest all the bodies that have ever been in my body is I actually need to change that because I won't do it right here, right now. But if you buy the book, the changes will be in there. It's on the other copy. But it's you know, breaking all the soul ties, because that's a big part of the binding. All of the handcuffs to the spell she's under, or whatever. That's the part of the element is you know, previous soul ties or inherited generational curses or things like that. It's just so much on our side is devoted to breaking those things that are keeping you in the matrix, and cutting them those other outside influences or astral stalkers or whatever it is. I mean, if you're a chosen one, you probably got much of them. So, but hedge-made symbolism, you know, that's, you know, talking about that. There's some of that Crowley stuff or whatever, Egyptian stuff, you know, occultic initiation and sex magic and all that. I don't really get into that too much, but this is where she referenced it. I think it's best to ever study that or learn it or make that part of your reality, other than just like get rid of it. I mean, yeah, you know, the devil just he gives enough to get people hooked, and then he doesn't fulfill his end of the bargain, and he leaves people high and dry, discards them narcissistically, leaves them all the time. So it's never a long-term situation. You want to, the Lord, you know, you would follow one or the other with them. At least with the Lord, you've got the, eternal joy and happiness. And, okay, so there's a lot of these in the second half of this. I think it's like all the way down here, actually. Here we go. Yeah. Elements. So all the books that are being referenced here. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. And even the kind of thing of just like they keep erasing their memory. If you notice on that, like they do the erase and they meet again, and then they have a horrible fallout, and then they meet again, and that getting stuck in that cycle. But also just like there's that soul recognition, and again it's because they erase their mind, but they didn't take back their soul fragments or break the soul ties, and that's the tragedy of just like, you know, the Lord says that people die, you know, perish because of lack of knowledge, lack of vision. They cast off restraint, and it's like they're going after it's not about erasing the memories. And, I mean, to a degree, that's part of it, but, you know, especially narcissistically, it's calling back those parts of yourself. Buffy season 6 is a great example of that, as she's, you know, kind of getting herself back there. But there's she's kind of in a different matrix in that one. A lot of the Twin Peaks stuff is that one gets a little bit more wishy, but you can see parallels between the energy harvests and the destiny swaps. People get left in the red room while someone else lives off their good karma, like Evil Cooper does versus Dale. But like it was by getting with Annie that opened him up to that. They target that low vibration, or you know, that it's always the horror movie where they do the one thing and then open up a door. And, so the nines being the god of your own matrix, the Truman Show, the gang stalking or astral shocking. You know, you don't want to go around saying you're chosen one. I just think it invites them. Astral stalkers, what you got to then clear out your energy. Rosemary Baby, which is still like this old David Bowie 70s thing, which is this whole station to station thing that's in Californication. That's too much to explain here. But yeah, it's I'm not, you know, never advertise the cult here, but there's just an element of just like, you know, some of the stuff, you know, the movie Get Out or Inception, you know, all that. Butterfly effect is everything all at once is massive here. That they nail a lot of these concepts here. Yeah, your hologram stumbled into my apartment is one of her lines. It's one of Taylor's lines there. You know, and they show that the world is bigger than us. You know, is part of this awakening process, and sometimes it is that time jumper shapeshifter that makes you aware of that. You know, to quote the parlance of this of these tropes here. And a field in my single town seems so hollowed now. You know, limitless is a biggie. So I don't want to give away the whole thing. There's still times where I'm not even covering, but this is just kind of an advertisement for that. So I hope you do pick up a copy and leave a comment if you want to see more of this content or have questions. We'll see you next time.